this is a great place to test tires. You can see this is just loose, what we call ball bearing gravel. We have a lot of granite in the dirt here, so it's just loose and slippery, like driving on ball bearings. And it's a good test for any tire, really.
This video is a review of the Scorpion Rally Adventouring tire. Now, let me start by saying that there's at least 3 different Scorpion Rally tires that I know of. There's the Scorpion Rally that, to my knowledge, doesn't come stock on any bike from the factory. It's a tubed tire for rallies. That's what it's designed for. That's where the name came from, to my understanding. And then they had the Scorpion Rally STR, which comes from the factory on bikes like the Aprilia Touareg and the Yamaha T7. And then there's this tire, the Scorpion Rally Adventouring tire, which is like the STR is a tubeless tire, but it's more aggressive like the Scorpion Rally. You guys confused yet? It is a little bit confusing. I don't know why they couldn't come up with different names. Probably because they use the same basic tread pattern on all 3 tires. And it's just spread out differently, separated differently. The beads are different, obviously, on the tubed and tubeless. Yeah, but it is confusing. But this is not the factory STR tire. This is the Adventouring Scorpion Rally. And I have to say, I noticed an immediate difference in performance when I spooned these tires on. Both on and off-road. Some of that's good, some of that's bad. We'll get into that. Let's start with the off-road performance, because honestly nobody's buying this tire for better street performance. It's a much more aggressive tread pattern than the STR. The Adventouring has much bigger space between the lugs, which we'll show you later in the video. And off-road, it performs as advertised. Wait a minute. Have you guys ever seen the ads for this tire? No, me either, honestly. Well, I guess I'm giving them a free ad here because this tire performs well off-road. I was very impressed. Honestly, best tubeless tire that I've ran off-road. We are going to do a comparison at some point with Cody's tire. Stay tuned for that one because he's got the most popular aggressive off-road tire that everybody buys. I decided to go with something different that, is relatively unknown, I think. At least I haven't heard of people running them so much. I'm very impressed with this tire. The front end especially, whereas the STR tended to sink in and struggle to hold a line in anything very loose, especially, you get this ball bearing gravel or sand or mud. It just wasn't shedding stuff quick enough, and it wasn't gripping enough to hold a good line in the loose stuff. Everything else, it was a great tire, honestly. For just general fire roads and pounding a lot of miles on pavement, the STR was a great tire. I don't have anything against it, but I do a lot of off-road riding, and so do a lot of other people. And let's be honest, off-road is where your traction matters most when you're adventure riding. Lots of tires can perform well enough on the street. when it comes to off-road riding. A lot of them struggle. And that's where the Scorpion Rally Adventouring picks it up. And as far as I'm concerned, sets the bar. But, you know, we'll find out when we do the comparison against Cody's tire. I'm very impressed with it so far, though. It holds lines well, even in deep, loose stuff. And shortly after this test run on the tires, I took the bike on a run to the Red Desert. And hopefully I'll have that video up soon, if I can get my editor to work properly. But yeah, off-road, this tire is, I'm going to say, phenomenal for what it is. For a tubeless tire, it's great. The new tires have way bigger spacing between the lugs. On the front, also put way more aggressive of a pattern with a lot more spacing between the lugs. This should be more stable on loose stuff, and hopefully not too noisy, and hopefully it's still fairly smooth on the road. The Scorpion Rally Adventouring tire inspires confidence off-road, and as predicted when I spooned them on, it's a lot more stable in loose terrain. I'm thoroughly impressed with it for off-road performance. This test run, you can see there's not much squirreliness of the front end. The bike's pretty stable. You know, there's a few times the back was spinning. I did take it out of off-road mode, turn the traction control back on, albeit at the lowest setting, so I could still get a little spin out of the back tire. But this ball bearing gravel, if traction control's off, you'll just be spinning a lot with any tire. Which, you know, brings me to the ride modes. Some people hate those. They like the analog feel of everything shut off, but you can shut all that off on this bike, and I do like the analog feel sometimes, but there's other times too I'm just looking for comfort. And when you're, you know, doing a long trip, that analog feel just fatigues you a lot, to be honest. And so if you're doing, you know, really long day rides, or, you know, multi-day trips, real adventuring, the ride modes make a big difference on keeping you from getting fatigued as quickly. And yes, I'll agree, it's not as fun to have the ride modes on versus having them off, but you gotta balance that, you know. That's, if you're taking long rides, sometimes too much excitement is going to wear you down too quick, and that's putting me in danger. If you look at this really loose stuff here, look how stable it is. Even when the front sinks in, it just remains stable. Really just impressed with these tires off-road. During this test, I kept the tires around 30 to 32 psi. I mean, let's be real. Adventuring, we don't want to sit and play with air pressure and have to carry air pumps. And I mean, I'm alright carrying one, but I don't want to pull it out, honestly, unless I have to. It's really more if I get a flat tire. I'd rather be able to ride without airing down. And so I tried to focus this test on pressures that would be usable on street as well. And I think 30 to 32 psi is a pretty good pressure for both on and off-road. And these tires did it great. When we got to the hard pack here, where it was more of a fire road, less off-road. There's still the loose Wyoming ball bearing gravel on top of this road, and these tires handled it well. And as you can see here on the washboards, they handled it with no problem either. And a lot of that's the suspension on the Touareg. I had it set up pretty soft here, but it just works. These tires worked. It's a great combination. As we know, tires are always about compromise. And just like there's no real unicorn bike, there's no real unicorn tire either. And where this tire compromises is on the street. It's got great off-road performance, but on the street it's just not quite up to par with the Rally STR, which is very smooth and predictable on the street. And honestly, I can keep up with sport bikes all day in canyon runs and corners with the STR tire. But with this tire, it's great for regular riding, I would say, and up to highway speeds, it's just fine. It's not loud or annoying. There's a little bit of vibration from it, definitely more than the STR and other street-oriented tires, but it's not that bad up to highway speeds. Once you get above that, though, it's a little bit buzzy, and it definitely doesn't track corners near as nicely as a street-oriented tire, but it will hold a line in the corner. You know, as long as you're riding decent, it will hold the line. It will run onto the shoulders just fine. The shoulder doesn't roll over quite as far, so you can't lean it quite as far. And when you get up like above 85, 90 miles an hour, it starts to get a little choppy, honestly, and feels a little unnerving. Can it handle higher speeds? Yes. Yeah, it has no problem topping out, doing top out speeds with this bike, but it's unnerving, I'll be honest. It doesn't feel like it's a good idea once you get up to those speeds. But for regular riding on pavement, it's fine. It does what it needs to. But again, it's all about the compromises. So that's the trade-off for the off-road ability of this tire. And for some people might find that a worthy trade-off, others will not. And again, we're going to do a comparison, this tire against the Moto Z Tractionator that Cody's running, because that tire is a compromise too. So there's pros and cons to everything, and I hope this video has been helpful for you, and hopefully we'll get that comparison done real soon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.